RomTom, episode 5. We're back on the air, baby. We're taking no
Yeah.
breaks. We're back. Every week you're gonna see me and Tom just deciding who's gonna win the Super Bowl. That'll get us right into Super Bowl contender or pretender edition.
Right
Now,
into the
we were thinking about doing the top 10 teams in the standings, but there's a team not even in the top 10 that I need to ask you. Tommy, are the Chiefs contenders or pretenders?
they are contenders with their track record, I've got to say. I think the way people overreact to what the Chiefs do is way out of proportion. You know, they're the Super Bowl favorites one week, which was a couple of weeks ago, I believe. And then all of a sudden they're back to being a dumpster fire and, shit's hit the fan, basically, where, I think that's a bad approach. We've got to be more level headed as fans, but, we're not. So people are going to be emotional, but I'll put them as contenders.
In some places, they're the leading favorite, as we talked about last week, which is absurd. How the Chiefs aren't even in the playoff picture and they're the betting favorite right now. So it's absolutely insane what's going on in there. A team just outside of the top 10 as well that I think we need to bring up. The Pittsburgh Steelers with Aaron Rodgers coming off a really tough week for him, probably the worst he's looked in a Pittsburgh uniform. Super Bowl contender or pretender?
I'll put the Steelers as pretenders because I don't think Aaron Rodgers has shown enough. Yes, he's played well, but I think people are overestimating that because he had a down year in the Jets. Um, you know, they think he's probably playing better than he actually is. He's playing above average football, but not Super Bowl caliber football, in my opinion.
I would have to agree. I think, especially for those fans that haven't been watching as closely, the Steelers' defense is not the same. Obviously, TJ Watt is doing his thing, but the secondary has not been the same. It's been kind of the problem all year. I think you can pretty much write them in for 9 or 10 wins. They've not had a losing season with Mike Tomlin since he's been the coach in
Mm,
the 17 seasons that he's been in Pittsburgh. So you can count on them to be right there. But I just think for the Super Bowl contenders, it's a very short list,
mm.
which this team up next could be added to. I'm surprised they're so far down in the standings. Buffalo.
Wow. Wow, yeah, I mean contender all the way. The blueprint for what you want in a Super Bowl caliber team. They've got the experienced quarterback, MVP level quarterback. They've got weapons around him now. Defense is playing well. They just came off a huge win against the Chiefs, which obviously has been Josh Allen's arch nemesis in Patrick Mahomes. So I think that's a huge momentum boost, and they've proven they can beat every team in the league. So now we're going to have to see what happens come December, January, hopefully February in their case, and see if they can finish the job.
This is just a Rami hunch, maybe a
Yeah.
Rami predicting the future. But I think right now, if I had to pick, Bills Rams looks real good in the Super Bowl.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, Romy, it sounds like you've got a crystal ball over there because that sounds like that prediction could come to fruition for sure, especially with Matthew Stafford playing at an MVP level.
I think we can add the Rams to the contender list. We don't even
I
have to ask that question.
I agree.
Tampa Bay. This
That's
might
a
be the
great question.
hardest one yet.
I agree. I agree. Probably the closest to a coin flip that we've had. Again, we chatted about it last week. Like, I love Baker Mayfield, but I'm going to have to say pretender. I don't think they've proven enough. I think even if they have all their weapons out there, they're a divisional round type team at most. It pains me to say it again, but I'm going to have to say pretender based on their track record.
Now, me and Tommy, for those that know us closely, we like to indulge in the frothies, if you will.
Hmm.
We like to have some frothies, and for those that don't know, it's
On the
beer.
wild side a little.
Yeah, we like to diversify the hydration a little bit. And there is another beer that is dominating storylines in the NFL. Justin Herbert's girlfriend, Madison Beer, is an
Oh,
influencer, singer, very,
yeah.
very beautiful woman. They are now, I forgot to bring it up last week. How could I? I think they're the go-to power couple, especially with Justin Herbert
I
playing
agree.
MVP level.
It's been absolutely massive. I think I saw a picture of him going on a date with her, and he had a board game in his hand, and she had a bottle of wine. So I think just, I've dabbled in that combination personally. I can vouch for it. And I think that's absolutely stellar behavior from Justin Herbert. I think we've got Josh Allen and Haley Steinfeld up there as well. We've already mentioned them. But yeah, we haven't heard, T Swizzle's name for a few weeks now, which is a bit concerning. As you said, it doesn't, pan to the booth, which is unfortunate being a huge Swiftie myself. So,
Yeah, it sucks. She, unfortunately, for those that don't know, is dealing with a bit of a stalker, so they had to cut out the cutaways to T Swizzle.
wow.
It's unfortunate,
Wow.
but
I did not know that.
yeah, I had to bring the full circle moment for Tommy. Another team along with the Rams in the same division, the Seattle Seahawks. Are they contender or pretender?
I'm going to say contender, which is controversial maybe, but I think because Sam Darnold had an amazing year last year and then he flunked in the playoffs, I think people expect that same thing to happen and they don't give him enough credit for what he's doing. I think if, it's the same thing we saw last year at about this week, week 11 of the season. Everyone was saying, oh my goodness, Sam Darnold's lighting the world on fire. But now because we've become accustomed to it, we're kind of like, well, what can he do, when it gets to December and January, basically, which I think is holding him to too high of a standard. I think he's doing a great job. And therefore, I think they're contenders.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle, they have the second best point differential in the league, only behind the Colts. So they've been very under the radar. I know they're pretty much always slotted in that 3:30 Eastern time slot. So they always kind of just have blowouts every single time. It looks like they're beating up on somebody. A team that I can't really understand how their record just doesn't really resemble how I feel like they played. The Philadelphia Eagles at 7-2 right now. Are you feeling it doesn't feel like quite the Super Bowl defending hangover that happens for a lot of teams, but it just hasn't looked the same.
No, it hasn't. And it's weird what's happening with the offense. They're very wildly inconsistent. One of the most inconsistent teams in the league, I would say, on the offensive side of the ball. Nick Sirianni's decision making has obviously come under fire with what happened in the past week against the Packers, and rightfully so. I think, yeah, we have to trust them to a degree because they just won the Super Bowl, but also I think the trust there is falling a bit, and we don't have the same impression of the Eagles as we once did. I didn't even know they were 7-2. Honestly, I thought they had 3 or 4 losses, but that speaks to their ability to just win games, as you say. Like you learn how to win, like the Chiefs did it last season, winning all those tight, dirty games. And it's the Eagles' turn now. So contenders, I would say.
Yeah, I mean they have to be in there. Obviously, the coaching staff proved last year, and all of them know how to win. So winning is a skill, I feel like, just to win those dirty close games. And we've seen a team on the other side in the AFC, Denver Broncos, win a lot of games that they shouldn't have. They
Yeah,
lost to the Colts when they shouldn't have. So it's really been rocky. Drake May has really just solidified himself as the best quarterback in that 2024 class. I know Bo Nix is right there along with him, but
I
Bo is
agree.
so
I think
talented, but it's so
mm,
frustrating watching him.
it is, yeah. And I think it speaks to the coaching as well. As I mentioned, I think last week, I suspect Drake May has more of the reins of the offense. It looks like. It looks like he's calling a few of his own plays and he has a lot more freedom. Whereas what you see from Sean Payton, he wants his quarterback to play within the offense. You know, that's why we saw the frustration, I think, when Russell Wilson was, kind of doing his thing out there because he wasn't playing within the system. So Bo Nix certainly does his job, but Drake May is far exceeding that right now. And I watched the Patriots Jets last night. Obviously, you're playing the Jets, but that's what you've got to do. And I think it's hard for young guys to break away by 1 or 2 touchdowns in a game like that. Um, but he seems like he's getting used to winning, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, the rest of the slate is all AFC teams at the top. We got the Patriots, Colts, and Broncos. I think they're all contenders. Drake May, I really wanted to bring a unreal stat for Tommy. So Drake May is the only player in NFL history in their first 11 starts of a season have a plus 800 win percentage to win 80% of their games, has 70 plus completion percentage, 20 plus touchdowns, 250 plus rushing yards, and 2,500 passing yards.
Wow, that's quite the stat, and that was a long-winded stat if I've ever heard one. But yeah, that speaks to what he's doing this season, and also the job Mike Vrabel has done. Honestly, like I absolutely love what he's done across the board because you've got to remember it's not just Drake May, it's the defense with the young pieces they have and their free agent signings, and then Stephon Diggs as well. Like to see him, swallow his pride a bit and be such a leader. I think it's the change of scenery that he needed because in Houston, it kind of went sour there as well, and this seems like the fresh start he needed, and it's timely for the Patriots because they will need those veteran guys more so in the playoffs.
I think another player that we have to give a shout out to is Travion Henderson for the Patriots, an unbelievable rookie out of Ohio State. I could not believe they were able to snag him in the first round. He's played unreal. Obviously, Ramondre Stevenson dealt with a lot of fumble issues earlier in the season, and Henderson has really just taken that number one slot in the depth chart and really hasn't looked back. He had those three touchdowns in the games against the Jets. It's
Mm.
unreal what's going on in New England, especially with Jason Tatum back on the court getting shots up. I can't wait for him
Mm.
to be back, Tommy.
Yeah, New England's a good place to be.
So we can hit some of these games you're looking forward to, and then we have a little game that we're gonna play that Tommy brought up this evening.
Yes, yes, let's do it. Let's start off with the matchups, and then we'll get to the secret sauce.
Chiefs Broncos. The game that I think will be the game of the day. Obviously, the Buccaneers and Bills looks enticing at noon.
It does. It does. It looks like I'll be on the edge of my seat. I got to say, but um, look, we'll start it off with Chiefs Broncos. I'm gonna have to take the Chiefs in that one, purely based on the experience factor and Mahomes' ability to win games at the end. And then also, Bo Nix has kind of faltered when he has the opportunity to close out games. I find. Which has been interesting this season. It seems the Broncos keep every opponent in the game for longer than they should be. So I'll take the Chiefs. And then as a close second, the Bills Bucks. I mean, that is a marquee matchup at 12 midday is absolutely insane. But I'm gonna have to take the Bills in that one purely because of the injury list.
Yeah, I mean, the Buccaneers have just dealt with injuries all season. It feels like it really derailed that amazing start that Baker and the crew had to start the season with all those game-winning drives. I did want to note for the Broncos and Chiefs matchup, both starting running backs will be out. Pacheco and Dobbins have been ruled out for the game, as well as on the Broncos side, Surtain and Singleton. So that's some
Whoa,
key losses for them.
whoa, yeah, that's massive. I mean, I think that works in the Chiefs' favor. They would just win the differential across those two, injury reports. But nonetheless, I mean, when you look at it from the Broncos side of the ball, it'll be interesting to see how that affects the game plan. Not having Sertan back there, will they not be able to send as much pressure as they typically do? We'll find out.
I think this is like a must-win game for the Chiefs. I think their next couple of games are must-wins because they're fighting for a spot while the Broncos kind of have maybe not the division quite nailed in with the Chargers right behind them, but I think they have a playoff spot pretty much secured as long as they can take care of some of the easier games on the rest of their schedule. As
Mm.
I did bring up, Chargers go on the road to play Jacksonville. Jacksonville, I think, could spring this one. I really think they could win this one at home. I
Really?
think the weather's going to be weird. I think Trevor Lawrence will have that one game where he looks like what he could have been every single game, but obviously he's such an up and down player. I think the Jags will be my upset pick of the week this week.
Wow, there we go. I'll probably stick with Justin Herbert there. Um, but yeah, by a close margin, though, by a close margin. And I mean, you know, if I were Justin Herbert, I'd be inviting Madison Beer down for a few martinis after the game in Jacksonville. It should be absolutely beautiful there with the humidity just spicing things up as the sun sets.
I think Tommy got me ready to talk about this divisional matchup. Seahawks
Yeah.
Rams. That'll get you tingling up.
Oh man, yeah. I just felt a shiver down my spine, and I'm very excited. As I said, I love divisional football. The Rams Niners last week or a couple weeks ago, last week I believe, and I mean this is a huge one. Like both sitting at 7-2. This is, you would imagine, going to become a factor as a tiebreaker in the division. Um, Home game for the Rams. I'm going to side with the Rams. I would, even if it was away, I would say, purely because of the experience of the quarterbacks and what Stafford's been able to prove in his later years.
I'm gonna pull a Tommy hot take, and I'm saying if the Rams lose this game, they're not going to the Super Bowl, but if they win it, they're going all the way.
Wow, wow, that's a lot riding on it. You must have a magic eight ball back there or something behind the camera because Romy has been slinging shots tonight.
We're always slinging shots when RomTom combines. Last but
Yes.
not least, in terms of the games that are a must watch on Sunday, we have Detroit going to Philly
Woo.
and taking on the Eagles. Eagles favored by 2.5. This is a coin flip, I think. I think Dan Campbell needs to maybe rip three venti coffees instead of just two and pop a couple zins in and get wired because this is going to
I
be a huge matchup.
I would advocate for that strategy as well, uh, if we're being perfectly honest. Um, Purely because of the cognitive benefits, but I think for the Lions, this is a must win because if you look at their division as well, um, I mean, this division is not locked up by any means. You have, uh, just to give you a visual of things. I mean, the Vikings are last in the division at 4-5, and we've seen the Vikings, be a capable football team, a more than capable football team. So I think for the Lions, this is such an important game, with real playoff implications. Uh, I'm going to take the Lions as the upset pick of the week. Actually, um, part of me wants to side with Philly and be conservative, but I love seeing an upset, and I'm going to be rooting for them hard come Sunday night.
Yeah, I think we can all absolutely love like Jared Goff's story. I think he's really found a new home and a new place to feel at home because he played pretty good, I thought, for the Rams, but then they kind of just kicked him out of the door. Obviously, I think that trade kind of worked out for both squads as they got the guy that they're gonna hope leads them to the promised land. Tommy
Mm.
has a new segment he wanted to throw at me, and I absolutely loved it. So, Tommy, take it away.
So this week we're going to be commencing strike now or throw in the towel. So this is going to be teams that are they on the cusp of being a contender for the deep playoff runs in the Super Bowl, or do they throw in the towel, burn the dumpster and trade the house for draft picks and rebuild. That's the point a lot of these teams are at. It's headlined by the Cincinnati Bengals, so that gives you an idea of the type of teams we're talking about. Some of them are in pure rebuild mode. If you look at the Jets or teams like that, but we're going to be looking at teams that are right on the cusp. So kicking it off with the Cincinnati Bengals. Romy, I'm going to throw it over to you. Strike now, get a couple key pieces, or throw in the towel and rebuild around obviously Joe Burrow.
Ugh, this is a tough one, but I would have to say strike now while the iron's hot. You have one of the best receivers in the whole NFL with Jamar Chase. Joe Burrow, when he's not injured, he's one of the best, probably top five, top three quarterbacks in the NFL. I think you have to strike while the iron's hot. You've seen teams like the Browns, the Jets, the Titans before Cam Ward. You've seen these teams when they don't have a quarterback, how bad it can get. So
Mm.
obviously you do want to keep Joe Burrow. He is your franchise. But I think this is kind of a season from hell. I mean, turf toe is no joke. He basically blew up his whole like toe. It's like an ACL injury of the foot, so it's not something I think you need to throw away off of just one
Mm.
bad season.
Yeah, I agree. I would say strike now. Shoot for a couple more defensive pieces in the defensive backfield as well. But I would not envy being the GM of the Bengals right now. With having the T Higgins situation, I believe he's on the franchise tag again this year. I know he's not going out like that, next year. On a franchise tag. So I mean, there's some huge decisions to be made up in that Bengals front office. So The next team we're going to talk about is the Commanders. So the Commanders obviously secured Jaden Daniels, what looks to be a franchise quarterback, regressed after the NFC Championship appearance last year. And obviously, him being super young, you do have time to hit the reset button, let him develop for a few more years, and then have a Super Bowl caliber roster in a couple years. Which that's probably the side that I would go on. I would say throw in the towel and rebuild around Jaden Daniels. I think from what we've seen this season, they do not have the pieces that they did last season. I'm not sure if it's personnel or coaching, but sitting at 3-7, it's not pretty.
Yeah, I think Jaden Daniels proved last year that he can absolutely lead this franchise to the promised land. I think last year it was a mix of being underrated in general, and they also had a way easier schedule. So I think that had to do with a lot of them winning. Obviously, the Jaden Daniels injury really derailed their season. They did find a huge, I believe, late round pick or undrafted in Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt from Arizona. I think he only played one game for Arizona and then dealt with an ineligibility or eligibility issue. And he has 4 touchdowns on the season. He's quick as ever, but I do think that is a position they really need to fill with a strong, not quite the caliber, obviously, of Saquon Barkley, but they need a transaction like that to take the
Yeah,
Eagles over the top. They need a strong running back and then a good. I mean, Debo Samuel and Zach Ertz are solid, but I think you just need a Jamar Chase or you need somebody elite.
yeah, no, I agree. And a fun fact, actually, when I was watching the last Commanders game with Krosky Merritt, Kirk Street was saying that with the eligibility issues, Krosky Merritt, so he couldn't play his final year at Arizona, but he played on the scout team as the scout running back. And he did that the entire year without the prospect of playing. So that tells you, the kind of player he
We
is.
wouldn't have gone 4-8, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. That's right. So you absolutely love to see it, honestly. Um, Another team I want to mention, which is really interesting, and probably the last of this segment, I would say, for the other teams, it's not as relevant. We could mention the Cowboys as well. That's an interesting one. But I'm going to go the Houston Texans. What do you think? Strike now while the iron's, red hot, or throw in the towel and let it
Wow.
burn?
Tommy with quite the curveball looking like Yamamoto over there.
Agreed. Agreed.
I mean, let's talk about the Houston Texans. So, 2023 NFL season, pretty solid. You have the
Mm.
Texans make the playoffs with this hot rookie. I mean, CJ Stroud was Madison Beer hot. He was throwing it. I was like,
Agreed.
wait, I don't remember this kid at Ohio State lighting it up. Yeah, that's right,
Absolute.
because he didn't. Because you know who did? Will Howard last year.
Mm.
But anyways, and he led them to one of these.
Yeah.
So CJ Stroud, yeah, you played good as a rookie. Sophomore slump, we knew it was coming. It happens all the time. It's happening with Bo Nix right now.
Yeah.
And then year 3, you start like shit. What's going on in Houston? You have Will Anderson, who is an absolute maniac, one of the
Oh my.
best defenders. The Houston Texans, you can argue, have the best defense in football, and you're at 4-5. You just
It
have to
doesn't make
be
sense.
you just have to be Bo Nix and you're 8-2.
Mm,
Am I
mm.
wrong? Like what's going on in
I,
Houston? I
I
say I don't even know. Maybe you need to blow it up at QB.
oh my goodness, Robbie is throwing haymakers tonight. I would, stick with CJ Stroud. Fist down, fist down. Um, and I would honestly switch up the offensive coordinator and offensive play calling. Um, and give him some stability there. I would switch it up next year and ride for the long haul. Um, I think he's had to deal with numerous offensive coordinator changes in the first few years. I think that's contributed to the success or lack thereof on offense. And as you say, all you have to do is manage the game, but it's the turnovers and the 3-and-outs and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, I would say strike now. I think they're still in the mix, especially with how the defense is playing. But it pains me to see, things kind of waste away this season.
Now, before we move on, I mean, Cowboys, what do you think?
We do need to mention it because I just glossed over it there. I I kind of did that strategically because it's the toughest one we've talked about. Um, I think throw in the towel. I think Jerry's World is no longer in operation. It is out of business. I would love to see new ownership. I doubt that'll ever happen because I think he'll pass it down within the Jones family. Um, you know, it's it's tough to see. I think I respect the hell out of Dak Prescott. He's has having an amazing season still. Let's not forget that. But just too many holes on the defensive side.
Yeah, I mean, defense you have to mention because honestly, I don't hate Dak Prescott. I've really liked him since he was at Mississippi State in college. I think he's a solid quarterback. He's kind of like the Tom Troth of Bo Nix's in fact that he's going to show up every day. You don't see him missing games. You see him absolutely dialed in. And Javonte Williams, I hated to see him go in Denver because if this is how he was going to turn out, I mean, why, we need him. I mean, obviously, I love RJ Harvey, but Javonte Williams has been an absolute huge pickup. I love
Yeah.
Kings. I love Lamb. I love Ferguson, their tight end. I think he's very Antonio Gates-esque. I think he's an
Oh,
absolute
yeah.
stud down the middle. I
Yeah.
just think America's team hasn't really been relevant since the 80s, and that's just a fact.
No, that is a fact. Unfortunately, it's hard to realize, but man, we speak honest truths here on the Rombo show. That's for sure. So we don't we don't sugarcoat things. We're to the point, and we'll break your balls. So
Yeah, I mean, I think the Cowboys, it's time to just figure out something else. Obviously, just go hard on the defense. In the draft, we have some unbelievable defensive linemen, Ruben Bain of Miami. We have a couple other guys. Now, I did want to run by you, Tom, before we get into a little
a drive
mailbag.
by.
So, the New Orleans Saints benched Spencer Rattler a couple weeks ago, and they have Tyler Shuck, who went to my high school, Hamilton High School in Chandler, Arizona.
Wow.
25-year-old rookie. He graduated in the winter of 2018, was Justin Herbert's backup at Oregon for a couple years. Didn't get much play because he's Justin Herbert. Then he went to Louisville or no, he went to Texas Tech, balled out for a couple years, got injured. He had three season-ending injuries in his 7 years of college, or six and a half. And then he balled out at Louisville his last year and made it to a
Wow.
second round pick of the Saints. So shout out to him, Tyler Shuck. The Saints, though, are at 2-8. If you're the Saints and you get a top five pick in this NFL draft, are you gonna draft Heisman Mendoza of Indiana or Ty Simpson of Alabama, or are you gonna try to stay put and save a quarterback for the 2027 draft, which is absolutely loaded? Arch Manning, Julian Sayin, Lenore Sellers, just to name a few. What are you
Yeah.
doing as the Saints GM?
Yeah. What I would do is I think give Rattler another season. I don't think he's had enough time, honestly.
You think
To
Rattler over Shuck?
yes,
Okay,
yes, I think
they're
he's
getting the
shown.
rookie some play.
Yeah, yeah, and then it's good to see what Shuck can do, but I think next season give Spencer Rattler one more season, draft a defensive piece or an offensive line piece this draft really high, and then give Rattler another season. He either proves himself or he doesn't, and then if he doesn't, draft a quarterback. If he does, then continue to build around him. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was definitely something that I was curious. I'm also curious about your thoughts on the Arizona Cardinals' future going forward. Now, I did scrolling through the social medias this past week, I saw a Kyler Murray trade to the Browns for Shador Sanders, a third round pick, and then another third round pick. I mean, what are you thinking? Should the Cardinals stick to it, or you think it's just been 5 years and it's enough?
I think throwing the towel. I think, the way Jacoby Brissett has played as well coming in, like that speaks a lot to, what Kyler Murray has failed to do. So we got to, 5 years. It's a long time. A lot of quarterbacks don't get that long to prove themselves, and they get kicked out the door. So yeah, I think we shouldn't have a double standard here, and um, you know, send him on his merry way.
Now, I think we can go into Coffin Corner this week. And I don't have any
Oh,
specific players or a specific way I wanted to do this, but I did want to mention the Cincinnati Bengals are sitting at number one in the NFL with 53 yards average per punt on 38 punts. I mean, just give us a little insight. How is 53 yards and what is going
man,
on with that? And
that's
what are the differences between a 50-yard punt and say like a 35-yard punt? Is that kind of like a 3-point percentage in the NBA, or just dumb it down for our audience a little bit as a
man. So I mean,
all-American soon to be punter in the college football ranks?
yeah. So I mean, 53 yards is ridiculous. I believe that's Hugh Reck now. Um, I think that's the punter. Dude, he's an absolute dog. And I mean, hitting at 53 yards, like you're standing 15 yards back, you're hitting virtually a 68-yard ball, in the air, which is insane. So, got to give him his props there. And then, I mean, it makes a world of difference as well, getting the hang time there and for field position. But typically, when you have, a really good punter, really good special teams, you would love to see the defense and offense complement that. But for the Bengals, obviously, that hasn't happened. So that pains me to see a bit because you feel like it's kind of, you know, being done, in vain because it's like, you don't see the benefits. If a punt's down at the one, everyone's hyped. And usually that'll lead to team success, but not this year for the Bengals. So you hate to see it.
And it's really interesting that you bring that up about the distance and looking at the top five teams in average distance. We have obviously the Bengals, who we talked about in this episode, just injury struggles, kind of the year from hell. Then we have four playoff teams in the Eagles, the Packers, the Ravens, and the Colts, all above the 50-yard mark. And for the average viewer, you might not think that punting is as important. I know I didn't really think of it too much before. Obviously, I have a inner working in the industry of the special teams. The
That's right.
bottom five teams in average yards per punt: Raiders, Giants, Falcons, Buccaneers, and Saints, all below 44 and a half yards per punt. So that 10 yards makes a huge difference
Well,
in field
I
position.
it makes the difference for field position, and the average viewer might not, recognize the importance, but the above average viewer will recognize the significance of the punting game. So you love to see it. You absolutely love to see it, and the way it can change field position for teams and really change games. Um, yeah, is brings a tear to my eye as a punter myself. So
Since we started the show, I've been obviously during the week playing Madden, and I've been doing punting now. Like I've been trying to aim for the pylon. I've been doing all that. It's sick.
the coffin corner experience. That's what it's all about. You go and apply it in real life, and see what it's all about for yourself.
Now, I do have to ask because in the Rombo household, we love to watch College Game Day. Pat
Mm,
McAfee, special teams personnel, much like Tom
yeah,
Hunting in the NFL, is on the show. He kind of replaced Lee Corso in a sense with the energy, bringing the vibes. Now, he does do I believe, 35-yard field goal or something about that range on the show for a couple
yes.
$1,000, $100,000, 250s, things like that. Now, what do you think of that contest? Do you think like these soccer guys are kind of, if they played soccer, it's kind of rigged, or how do you feel about the soccer connection to kicking field goals?
I mean, I think it's great. Like anyone who can, come in and join the wonderful game of football, I think that's amazing. It's brought me across the world, allowed me to cross paths with Justin Rombo, among many others. So I mean, there's a lot the game has to offer. It's awesome to see more people get involved, especially coming over from other sports. As for the contest, I do love it, but also it is quite eye opening. Like people think, kicking or punting is like so easy, and it's like anyone can walk in and do it, which isn't the case. So it's interesting to observe, but I always root for them and get hyped when they win the cash. So
Now, I was curious before we do end this episode of RomTom episode 5. Now, when you started getting more into punting, was there a certain guy that you like to model your game after? Like, was there certain punters? Was it a lot of the Australian punters? I know in college and in the NFL, did you have kind of a mentor or someone you really looked up to?
Um, I wouldn't say so much. Like I think one of my high school coaches was really influential. Coach Cruzy. I remember he was like the special teams coordinator for us, and he coached a bit of the defense as well. But he was this old guy. And yes, a lot of wisdom to share and really hard nosed coach. But he would always. I remember I was punting with one of my friends out on the field, and I didn't know he was there, and I hear this voice like, I shanked one, and I hear this voice, come from behind me, and it's like, look down at the ball, and I was like, who the hell is that? Like what? And like Coach Cruzy's sitting on the stairs, like watching us practice. So man, that was awesome. And then to make, hopefully like make guys like that proud now with what I'm doing. It's really special, like to pay it forward. Now and then the other week after my college game, I had the opportunity to meet a young fan who couldn't believe I was from Australia, and I mean, it's just awesome, just the people it brings together. So
It's a community. I mean, I think the college football at any level is everybody's passionate about it. Everybody's doing it for the love of the game, especially at the Division Two, Division Three, NAI level. Everybody's just doing it for something they've done their whole life. I've absolutely loved coming and watching Tommy play when I have, and I can't wait to get back after it. And any closing thoughts before we wrap up episode 5?
yeah, no, it'll be absolutely incredible when you return. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed featuring on the Rombo show and look forward to it continuing. It's great chatting NFL football, college football, anything that you know, um, that comes to mind. So it's a special time.
Have a good weekend, everyone.